Thank you and welcome for joining us to the third and last Fuel Fall Conference event. This is the Cascadia CleanTech Accelerator Showcase. If you missed any of our other events, you can visit them through going to our main virtuelab.org page and see those posted there. For those of you new to our VirtueLab community, I'm Tricia Clemens. I'm the Impact Manager at VirtueLab. First, I want to express my gratitude for the land I'm on today. I'm on the land of the Cowlitz, Multnomah, Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde, and the Confederated Tribes of the Siletz Indians, as well as other Indian tribes that are of the lower Columbia River area. If you haven't already looked up the land that you're on, we'll go ahead and post in the chat a link that you can look that up. There's also several other resources. If you just Google being able to, your land acknowledgement, you can enter your zip code and find out which land you're calling in from. So today we're going to celebrate 8 amazing companies that make up this year's cohort. They've been fine-tuning their pitches, discovering new customers, and just overall really building out and strengthening their business model. Super exciting. We've got quite the treat with the videos and some conversation with them. I do want to welcome Rochelle Ames up, who is the co-manager of the CCA program, along with my colleague Vanessa Margolis here at VirtueLab. So hello, Rochelle.
Hi, Tricia. Thank you so much. It's great to be here. And thank you to everyone who's here to hear from our Cascadia CleanTech Accelerator companies. This is our 7th cohort, and I always hesitate to say this, but this is my favorite part. My favorite part is the end. It's been great to work with these companies throughout these 18 weeks, but it's very exciting to see the final product and to see where they've come from and where they're going to go. And that's really what we hope that you guys will take from these presentations is helping them along the way. So with that, I want to really thank the collaboration that we have. I'm the Vice President for Economic Development at the CleanTech Alliance. We are a nonprofit trade association based in Seattle, Washington, with over 1,000 member companies in 17 states and 4 Canadian provinces. But we work on this program together, obviously, with VirtueLab and with a ton of other supporters, and we couldn't do this alone. Same as building a clean tech startup, it takes a village. So thank you to everyone at VirtueLab. I want to send a special shout out to Vanessa Margolis, Abigail Hagen-Reed, and Steve Morris, as well as Tricia Clemens and Joe Brickman, who have been very instrumental in this year's cohort, as well as my colleague Blake Myers from CleanTech Alliance, who has also been a main supporter of the program. Thank you to all of the subject matter experts that have participated as well within the program. We have over 50 mentors and subject matter experts that participate throughout our 18-week program. And then also want to say congratulations to the teams. You guys have put in a ton of hours, and we're really here to celebrate you today. With that, I will take one more second to also shout out some additional programs that we have that the Cascadia CleanTech Accelerator is a part of. We were awarded a DOE EPIC grant last year to expand our accelerator program and introduce new modules through the coming years. We also are able to offer expanded grant assistance program through VirtueLab's federal funding assistance program. Additionally, we have launched a new program called the CleanTech Hardware Innovation Prototyping Program at the Washington Clean Energy Test Beds, and a Lab to Launch program highlighting area resources from research institutions here in the Northwest. I'll put some links in the chat and also add in my email if anyone wants to connect about those additional resources. We're here to help any entrepreneurs that are in the audience along your journey. So please connect with me when you get a chance. And with that, one last thank you to our sponsors of our Cascadia program, Dorsey & Whitney, Advanced Professionals, Insurance Benefit Solutions, and Craft 3. We also couldn't do it without your support as well. And I hopefully within my time frame, thank you again to VirtueLab for our partnership. We've been doing this for 7 years. This is our 7th cohort, and really excited to now hear from our teams.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rochelle. It's been really fantastic over the years, just to get to know you guys, and especially at the CleanTech Alliance, and to be able to partner on this event. Or on this program. This program is a part of several other programs that we offer to support companies and the entrepreneurs through their journey. We also have our Climate Impact Fund as well, and a Climate Impact Fund 2, stay tuned, that will be coming out soon. So again, you can visit our website to hear all about all of the other ways that we support organizations like what you're going to hear from today. So we are also joined today by our investor panel. We have two investors that are joining us, Judy Lee and Jim Houston. Judy is Vice President of Energy Foundry, which is a climate tech venture capital firm. Her work today is investing venture capital in today's most promising energy innovators. But if you look deeper into her background, she's got quite an eclectic set of interests. So everything from energy and housing to natural resources and sustainability, building efficiency, and even marine biology and oceanography, which is super exciting. Thanks for joining us, Judy. And then Jim Houston is the co-managing director and co-founder of Portland Seed Fund. In addition to his successful track record of leading investments in more than 100 companies, serving on multiple boards, and just overall being a catalyst in this space, his background also includes 20 years with Intel Capital, and he's extended himself even as an adjunct university professor. So Jim, thank you again. Thank you to both of you for joining us. So let's get into our company presentations. This is how it's going to go. So each company has submitted a 2-minute video. We're going to play that, get an overview of what their top technology is. Then we're going to invite one of their representatives up onto the stage with me, as well as Jim and Judy, who will then have some Q&A back and forth with them. If you have any questions that pop up, go ahead and put them in the chat. I will try to watch for them there. If we don't get to them in the Q&A, then when that person or maybe some of their other representatives in the audience, they'll be able to address your question there. But either way, we'll circle up back with you. So first up, we've got Bayou Energy. This is James Gordy, co-founder and CEO. We're going to hear the video here. They are solving some challenges in the solar community project space. So let's see Bayou's clip.
Hi, I'm James Gordy, co-founder and CEO of Bayou Energy. At Bayou, we're enabling anyone to easily sell clean energy, starting with our first product, a software platform that enables clean energy startups to get paid faster and easier by improving their customer billing experience. In our beachhead segment, community solar, startups enable the 2/3 of Americans who can't put solar on their roof to have a subscription that gives them guaranteed electricity savings, typically about 10 to 20%, requires no money down, can be canceled anytime, and of course is 100% clean through solar energy. Today, there's 800,000 community solar customers, and the Department of Energy has a very public goal of 5 million by 2025. So aligned with that, the industry is growing over 200% per year. So the main problem here for customers is that the billing experience is super confusing. It involves 2 bills that are separated by 1 to 8 months. So you get 1 bill from your utility and 1 bill from your community solar company. And so that makes it really hard to figure out which bill's for what, when you're actually saving money. And then you never really know when your bill's coming and actually how much it's going to be for due to the delay. And so for community solar companies, it's a bad customer experience. So about 9% of their customers are canceling every year, and that's really expensive to replace. There's a high support load having to deal with all these confused customers. And then they don't get paid for 1 to 8 months due to this revenue delay. And so our product is a software platform that lets these community solar companies put their brand on 1 bill that's easy for customers to understand and pay for this month's solar and their utility charges. And so all the churn, high support costs, and that revenue delay are eliminated. And then their employees are freed up to focus on their core business. So our business model is that clean energy startups pay us a flat $1 per bill and then 3% of the bill amount collected. Ultimately, though, we're focused on the $1 trillion annual electricity market in America. So today we have 1 customer and we're in progress of deploying with them. When that's complete, it'll be 1.3 million in annual revenue. And we're a 2-person team. So there's myself, my background's in product and engineering in oil and gas and clean energy. And then my co-founder, Joris, he's our CTO. So Joris co-founded and sold a Belgian healthcare startup. Thanks.
Thank you, James. Go ahead and join me up here. So it sounds like you're solving a few pain points in the solar community energy world, making it a lot less complicated. It's good to see
Tricia,
you.
Thanks for having me.
And then Jim and Judy as well. If you had any questions ready to go.
Sure. James, this is a complex thing you're trying. I mean, it's a complex problem you're trying to solve, and I mean, I like simple solutions for complex problems. So explain to me why your solution actually is a simple solution for this complex problem.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Jim. So it's simple for the customer because they now have a auto pay billing experience for their solar energy and their utility charges instead of two bills. And it's simple for startups because they can get set up in a few minutes and they enable this customer billing experience. So on the back end, we handle all the complexity of hooking into the utilities, managing all the data, and then paying out all the different parties like a solar farm and also the utility on the customer's behalf.
And who actually is your customer? Is it the utility? Is it the owner of the community solar? Is it the consumer? All the above, or none of the above? We understand that.
Yeah, good question. So the people that pay us and our direct customers are either the solar farm or the community solar software company. But of course, end customers are important to us as well because they're the customer of our customers.
Great. Thank you for your presentation. My question is actually around getting under how you came to understand this like customer need and problem. And so it is complex, this industry. There's a lot of stakeholders involved. So as you designed this software platform, what specific like customer need were you solving for, and how did you come to that realization that this is a critical need in the marketplace?
Yeah, good question. And I'll try to answer briefly. So at a high level, there's no way to solve climate without abundant clean energy. It's really the platform for true decarbonization. For us, we tried to start a clean energy company, an internet company, and it was a bit intimidating and there are high barriers to entry to like plug our idea into the grid. And so that's when we pivoted to helping other people like ourselves. And through our discovery, we found the specific pain point of community solar billing today. It's a great product. It just needs a little help with enabling a great customer experience.
And so how did you explain this a little bit more? Go into explain how you got into the billing space, because that's obviously an essential component of any business, is making sure that the billing is correct. So what did you learn about the billing space other than it's just complicated that led you to this path?
Yep. So the first thing we're doing is getting customer utility data on behalf of the community solar company. So with the customer's position or permission, we'd go to the utility, get the data, and then give it to the startups in a clean way. And so that like made it easier for them. But what they would actually doing with the data is using it to better inform their billing processes. So they don't know what to charge the end customer until they get the official source of record from the utility. And so we found that instead of just giving them a part of the solution, we could give them the whole solution, which is a great customer billing experience to retain their customers.
Okay. How big could this get? How big a business can this be? And I'm trying to understand, is this really a scalable business?
Yeah, good question. So we do think that broadly, companies will need help selling clean energy in the disparate marketplaces. There's 160 utility markets and 10 independent system operators. So beyond community solar, we see a big opportunity, but starting in community solar, there are roughly 100 million Americans, to use round terms, that can't put solar on their roof. That's a good candidate for community solar. And so our average customer value is $87 a year. And so that is about 9.2 billion. So we think community solar is quite large, but ultimately we believe it could be a bigger annual market by enabling other startups, demand response, electric vehicles, electricity retailers. There's a big list of people that need to help customers save money by going green.
So what makes what you've built something that is unique or difficult to replicate compared to what a different software company that focuses on billing, maybe for other industries or for other solutions? Why couldn't they build what you've built?
Yeah, so good question. So I think initially our competition actually is our customers building the solution themselves. And so we build it, better, faster, and more cheaply than they could build it themselves. Longer term, and what's specifically different is some people are helping with utility data or tariffs, things like that. or they're kind of helping with billing, right? Like that's what Stripe does. They're a true like fintech platform. We're really connecting those two things to enable customers to easily like get paid and plug their energy solutions into the market. And so once we're deployed, to speak to repeatability or defensibility, it's quite sticky, a billing solution and any software platform you build on. But as we evolve, we will work with our partners to leverage the data set we have to further enable ways for customers to save more money on their electricity bills, and also potentially connect startups to each other once they're on the platform.
Right. Thank you, James.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on to Allo Points, the next company in line here. And Allo Points is working on a social commerce mobile app.
Allo there. I'm Saloni, co-founder and CTO of Allo.
I'm Adarsh, co-founder and CEO.
Allo is a social commerce app dedicated to climate learning and action. We sit at the intersection of education, commerce, and community. So let's take composting, for example. On Allo, you can learn all about composting, how it works, and its benefits through our bite-sized content. You can get connected to a composting pickup service through a marketplace of verified green businesses. And finally, share your accomplishments with your social network.
We're building Allo for ourselves and millions in our generation who are climate alarmed. In our climate fight and the Allo journey thus far, we have built 3 insights. The first is that we all want to learn about climate change without feeling depressed and helpless. Second is we want to make greener choices, but we don't know what's genuinely sustainable and what's not. And finally, in the context of global warming, we feel lonely as individuals taking action. So the biggest reason we'll succeed is because we're building this app for ourselves and others like us. And because we're driven by the ability to help reduce greenhouse gas footprints of entire nations to the tune of 25%, thanks to the power of behavioral change at scale. The second is that we have the real world skills. As a behavioral econ researcher, it motivates our focus on creating a business that's driven by incentives. That's why we're focusing on layering in features such as loyalty-based incentives through our business partners and making this a genuinely social and gamified product.
Third, we can actually build the product. I'm a coder, and I've led the largest ever Salesforce consumer goods app rollout to over 7,000 users. But ultimately, we're hustlers. We're immigrants who have had to balance our jobs until we can legally work on Allo full-time. And despite that, we have tested 4 prototypes with 100 end users, have 10 letters of intent from businesses and employers, and are backed by a world-class advisory team, including the former Chief of Sustainability to the City of Chicago. We were finalists in Chicago Booth's Social New Venture Challenge, and we'll be launching our stable MVP on allopoints.com in November. So come say Allo at allopoints.com.
Right, so I'm going to be joined by co-founder and CEO Adarsh Kumar. Hello, Adarsh. I really appreciate that you guys are bridging this learning and action and trying to incentivize folks, especially at this macro scale. And I'm sure there's some game theory psychology that starts to show up in here, yeah?
Yep. Indeed, yeah. So, I mean, with my experience in behavioral econ, which is where I've worked as a researcher, as an economist, that really motivates our focus on layering in incentives, both intrinsic and otherwise. So that's a big component of the software-led approach that we're taking to inculcate greater behavioral change at scale.
Yeah, very exciting. And then Jim and Judy, I'll invite you to definitely inquire.
Sure, I'll jump in. So thank you so much. And my question is, when it comes to incentivizing individuals to actually do things that are good for the environment, good for climate, my observation is that, there are motivating mechanisms such as saving money or like getting something that is better performing or whatever. And there's also kind of this other inspiration of just morality, I want to do good. And how does Allo Points, or does it pull on some other value that the customer gets besides just moral happiness of doing something good? Is there some other value that your customers would feel from engaging in these actions on your portal?
Yeah, that's a lovely question. And you've identified like two of the great sort of incentives. But for us, one of the big insights that we've developed, both through our research, but also through our customer discovery, is that social change has to be social, is sort of one of the tenets that we believe in. It's been proven in the case of, say, solar panel adoption at the household level, where the single biggest predictor of whether a household gets solar panels is the extent to which its neighborhood has them. So one of our unique insights is that sustainability is a social phenomenon. People make these choices inspired by others. There is somewhat of a virtue signaling component to this as well. And so that's essentially that informs our build as a product of making it social commerce by layering in these elements of some element of healthy competition, but also feeling like you're part of a community that's ushering in greater change. And so you're not by yourself tackling global warming, but that you're part of a global community taking it head on. Beyond that, we're looking at extrinsic drivers as well to further incentivize the process. So we're looking to layer in features such as loyalty points that you gain on Allo points, if you will, that can unlock different rewards with our green business partners, such as composting pickup providers, zero waste stores, and many other verified green businesses.
So, Darsh, thank you. What you're doing is obviously an important thing. What you're doing is also something that I've seen at least a dozen other companies in the last 3 years are doing this kind of consumer-facing behavior modification, save the planet kind of app. And to the best of my knowledge, none of them have had any kind of a breakout yet. So what are you doing that's going to actually get this flywheel cranking that will really make make Allo be the one that everyone across the globe wants to use?
Yeah, the two big things here, we are consumers of these competitors as well. And in fact, we see it as a bit of a validation that there are so many players in the space, because it's recognizing the opportunity that does exist. So someone will solve this problem and someone will solve it big. It's a big both sustainability opportunity, but also business opportunity. We're looking to be the ones that solve this big problem. And the two differentiating points here are, the first is I would call it depth. When you engage with some of our competitors, you notice that in our customer discovery, we found that there is essentially, they're rather stale in the sense that they work as glorified habit trackers with some elements of crude gamification or social features. So if you think about the example of composting, it would just say something like composting is great, do it, and you sort of check the box and maybe share with your friends. That only takes you so far. What we have recognized is people want to understand, why is it actually beneficial for the planet to compost? How do you actually do it? And most importantly, and this is the sort of the biggest differentiator we have, is we introduce depth by actually connecting people to the solutions at the local level that they can adopt. So we're connecting you to green businesses instead of you having to spend hours researching this and learning about it. And we're shortening the time to discovering these green products, which is a benefit for our users, but also for the businesses who are the people that we'll be charging to support our business model.
And Judy, did you maybe have one last question?
Yeah, sure. And so how do you think about trying to bring on new users to this platform, since it is a new platform that they would need to join in order to access all of this? How are you thinking about that strategy?
Yeah, I love that question. So essentially, it's a cold start problem, as you rightly identified. So before we get the network effects and the flywheel effects going, we are starting with building content ourselves and providing a standalone value proposition that engages our initial user base, whom we have identified to be those that are age 25 to 35-year-old. We're starting in Chicago. And they are already taking some steps in the context of sustainability. So they're part of green teams at workplaces. They are volunteers with organizations like the Climate Citizens Lobby. They're doing their own part in their personal lives, such as composting or going to zero waste stores and so on. So these are the people we are targeting initially as a way to help them further improve their sustainability game, if you will, and helping them better understand concepts related to sustainability. As we get that network going through our initial MVP that we're building with our standalone value proposition, we'll be layering in with greater sort of depth the social component and the marketplace component as a way of then really getting the network effects going and letting the domino effect go through of people sort of through word of mouth, getting their friends on our product. And eventually those that are also sort of lower down the sustainability ladder, if you will.
All right, thank you so much, Adarsh. Circle up a little bit later. So moving on to Amped Camp, which is our next company that we're going to talk with. They're taking vehicle to grid storage to an entirely different level. Watch this. And CEO of Amped Camp, Emma Roming, is joining today. Thanks for the video, Emma, and for the work that you're doing here. It's super awesome. You're taking basically all of these RVs that are sitting out there with batteries and really looking at taking that energy and the storage capacity of that and combining that with the grid. So we haven't seen anything like that out there. Where did this come from for you?
Well, so during COVID, my family and I spent 8 months traveling in an RV. You can really feel and perceive the consumption that's happening when you're driving one of those. So we wanted to do something to improve sustainability. We started learning about vehicle to grid technology and how great of an application RVs are. And one thing led to another, and here we are.
Fantastic. And it speaks to me as a fellow RVer. All right, Jim and Judy. I'll go ahead and let you jump in here.
I'll start this one. So Emma, love the idea. I mean, of this kind of distributed storage, but it's vehicle to grid is hard. I mean, there's a reason that no one's doing it yet. I mean, Ford is just going to do the vehicle to home, but I mean, my understanding is that all these RV makers are freaked out about the impact on the battery due to the cycling effect, because they can't really control that. So how are you going to address battery life issues and warranty issues for this kind of a solution?
So thanks for the question. You're probably aware that Nissan's actually now allowing vehicle to grid charging with the Nissan Leaf, and they're actually maintaining the warranty on the Leaf even when it's attached to a vehicle to grid system. There certainly is some concern about battery degradation, but compared to the alternative, which is a bunch of vehicles parked at a high state of charge or needing a trickle charge or some other sort of charging mechanism, we're putting the RVs at a lower state of average charge, which we actually think will promote longer battery life. We're also going to be tracking the batteries and sort of their use which I think will provide a better understanding of these batteries for the secondary market and things like that. But no, I mean, it's an excellent question. The main thing is just watching the depth of discharge in the batteries and making sure you're not creating, damaging situations or charging too quickly as well. So that's part of what we want to bake into the charging mechanism.
Okay.
So my question is, when it comes to all of these things that you would like the RV to do, provide services to the grid, manage renewable energy, where are you right now in terms of developing this product? And what do you think you would focus on first or next for adoption?
Yeah, so we're applying for SBIR funding from the National Science Foundation right now. We're focused on getting the AI trained up. We're using reinforcement learning to basically manage the system, the complexity of charging, discharging, things like that. And so getting to a software MVP is absolutely the top priority. In addition, we're working on a device that's found in every single RV on the road pretty much, called a power center. And that's where the AC bus and the DC buses that provide power inside the RV kind of come together. We think there's a retrofit device that we can install into the 11 million RVs that are already on the road. So working to get to a hardware MVP and a reference design for what you would need to communicate and work with our system. Those are the two top priorities for sure.
Great, thanks.
And Emma, we had a comment in the chat that came from somebody saying every time that they pass one of those big RV storage lots, they just envision all the storage potential that sits out there. And I know we've had some conversation already about kind of what's the scale of opportunity? Can you kind of put that in layman terms, I guess, for us, of how much opportunity is kind of out there that you're seeing?
Yeah, so we think each RV facility has the potential to provide about 50 megawatt hours of storage, which, as we mentioned in the video, is enough for about 35 million homes. And sorry, that's incorrect. 50 megawatts per facility. There's around 2,000 public RV storage facilities in the U.S., and that would offer storage for about 35 million homes if we charge and discharge it. I'll also say that we think that there's applications beyond RVs. They're just these vehicles that, to Jim's original question, sit parked for long periods of time. People don't usually run and jump in them and take off. So a lot of the challenges that other vehicle-to-grid projects have run into probably aren't going to be as dominant in this kind of an application.
Jim, any last questions for Emma?
Well, I think we're about out of time, but so I'll just real quick. So what exactly is the product you're doing? Sounds like you got an upgrade product. Is that what's a big market? Is that what you're really focusing on? Or is it going to be working with OEMs for selling to them? Or just can you describe that a little bit better?
Yeah, so I mean, at the moment, our product is software, a piece of control software that manages charging, discharging, dispatch, bidding, all the things that you need to do to function essentially as a power plant. We are not necessarily going into the hardware business. We have an advisor who's joined us. He was the chief innovation officer at the largest RV OEM in the world. And he's providing a lot of input on how we ought to approach this with the OEM. I think that we intend to have a AMP camp ready RV roll off the lot in the future. And whether we develop the hardware or we license it will be something to work out as we work forward in these relationships.
Thank you so much, Emma. All right, next up, we're going to hear from Canopy. Canopy is fully automated greenhouse solution. Let's take a look.
Hello, my name is David Ashton, and we are Canopy. Canopy is a technology company building robotic greenhouse farms that use novel end-to-end labor automation and energy reduction systems to optimize local food production. The U.S. food system has struggled in recent years. The inefficiencies in our food system have created massive waste. Unsustainable farming practices have reduced arable farmland. The average age of a U.S. farmer is getting older each year. These issues have led to an increase in imports for fresh fruits and vegetables. To address these issues, we have created one of the most cost-effective and automated farms in the world. Our farm is called the Rogue Farm. The Rogue Farm produces 250 plants per day on 1,200 square feet. This is equivalent to 2 acres of traditional farm production on 5 parking spaces. Not only does this farm produce much more per square foot than traditional agriculture, but it does so completely autonomously. This means our farm can produce 250 plants per day without any human intervention for 1 month at a time. We intend to sell our farms as a tool to food service providers and retail markets, with the ultimate goal of reaching small and mid-sized farmers. While our farm can provide supply chain security for food service providers such as schools, restaurants, and food banks, and price stability for retail supermarkets, our ultimate goal is to reach small and mid-sized farmers. The Rogue Farm will remove the labor and weather variables associated with farming. This will provide a baseline annual production of leafy greens and herbs to complement what farmers are already growing out in their fields. Our goal is to build around 750,000 farms by 2050. With this, Canopy will save 320 million metric tons of CO2 from the atmosphere. These savings will mostly be driven by deforestation prevention, food waste prevention, and transportation reduction.
Through a Phase 1 SBIR grant with the National Science Foundation, Canopy has developed a subscale prototype that demonstrates the farm's labor automation technologies. Canopy has submitted a Phase 2 SBIR application to support the development of the first full-scale Rogue Farm prototype. Canopy has also hired its first employee, acquired multiple advisors and consultants, and raised additional capital through private investments and state grants.
Right, and David Ashton, founder of Canopy, is joining. Hello, David. So you're not just working on parts of the solution, you have the entire farm. You're calling it the Rogue Farms. Can you maybe just start telling us kind of what differentiates you from anybody else working in this type of solution space?
Yeah, so we wanted to start from scratch to make this affordable for individuals. And so we're actually creating the tool to grow food opposed to actually growing food and selling it ourselves.
Thanks, David. And then Jim and Judy, if you want to jump in here.
Sure. So thank you for the presentation. My question is, what's interesting is this reminds me of, there's also been a push in making kind of prefab modular homes, right, that are super efficient, net zero, and it's kind of like all in one, here's a home. And so you kind of did something similar but different for small greenhouses. But, one question that comes to mind is when you construct things like this and you try to put kind of a one size fits all solution in the market, you have to do a lot of market research to make sure like what you're designing for and that it's a replicable, scalable design and size and everything. So what kind of research or how have you honed in on the shape, the size, the equipment inside the greenhouse that would make it into a more scalable product that most customers would want?
Yeah, one of our main focuses was to standardize the farm. And so we needed to design a farm that was producing enough food to justify the cost of automating the farm itself. And so, but we also didn't want the farm to be too expensive for it's out of the reach of individuals. And so that's how we landed upon this size. And if people wanted to scale, they could buy more than one farm. Yeah, that's kind of where we came up with the size and then the overall design of the farm.
So who is your customer here? Is it grocery distributors? Is it grocery stores? Is it restaurant operators? People who have current greenhouses? Farmer? Who is the customer? All the above?
Yeah, our ultimate goal is our farmers, because there's 2 million farmers in the U.S. and they're small scale, and we feel that for the last 100 years, all the advancements in labor automation have gone to big ag, and there's been nothing to advance the small scale family farmer. So ultimately, we want to get to the farmer, but to get there, we intend to go through retail outlets or other people that are more risk adverse than farmers are.
And what is the cost of one of these systems?
So far, we're thinking it'll be a $500,000.
And what do you anticipate? What you said, 250 plants a day. What do you anticipate the revenue off a $500,000 investment per year?
So it really depends on that farmer's outlet. So if I'm a farmer and I'm selling directly to farmers markets, the rule of thumb is that you're getting about $3 per head of lettuce. If I'm a farmer, I'm selling directly to a small retailer, it's about $1.50. And if I'm selling through a distributor to a retailer, it's about $1 a head of lettuce. So if you're selling $3 per head of lettuce at a farmer's market, this farm will produce around $275,000 per year. And it costs about $30,000 to operate. And that includes water, energy, seeds, media, nutrients.
So it's just completely a closed system. I mean, I mean, it's one turnkey, everything here. And because we have a company coming up later, Lateral Systems, I mean, which does software and sensors for indoor farming. And is that the kind of, I know there are other third-party solutions out there. Can those enhance what you're doing, or do you want to have a complete closed system here for what you're doing?
Yeah, it's a closed system. And so we are essentially the only person that touches the produce is the customer. So it's so automated that we want to keep everything within the system. But I guess in terms of bringing in other software or systems to run our greenhouse, we're not reinventing the wheel when it comes to greenhouses. And so we are actually using non-novel solutions for the greenhouse operation. Our novelty is in our labor automation.
All right, well, thank you, David.
Yes.
So next up, we're going to hear from, as Jim already mentioned, Lateral Systems, who is also working in the indoor farming space, but making the indoor farming smarter.
We are Lateral.Systems, an agricultural technology company providing indoor farmers with data insights to reduce risks and increase yields for success. We are working towards accelerating the adoption of novel indoor agricultural solutions, such as aquaponics and hydroponics, by instrumenting farms to grow more with less. Indoor farms produce an average of 30 to 40 times higher yields in comparison to soil-based outdoor farms using a fraction of the energy and only 5% of the water with no harmful pesticides and fertilizers. This is a rapidly expanding market, projected to grow to $30 billion over the next 10 years in response from pressures from climate change and scarcity of fresh water and demand for freshly grown local produce. Farmers are adding to their existing operations indoor grow operations that allow them to grow year-round. They're also repurposing warehouse spaces, basement spaces, and other unused spaces to grow nutrient-dense food. We're watching out for what can go wrong 24/7 by helping farmers prevent stressed fish and plants, crop loss, reduced nutrient flows, pathogens, all leading to wasted supplies and water loss. We began our first prototype in January of 2021 at Live Local Organic Farms, a 10,000 square foot warehouse aquaponics farm producing basil and lettuce. We instrumented the farm with sensor arrays that help the farmer to monitor pH, temperature, and several other factors that he can check on his phone 24/7 so that he can respond before stresses get out of hand. We are Dr. Jennifer Wells, a 30-year-plus ecologist, and Ed Lyle, who recently retired from Intel as the director of Intel Labs. We thank you so much for listening to our presentation today.
All right, and I'm joined by Jennifer Wells, who's the CEO and co-founder. Hello, Jennifer.
Hello.
So yeah, this solution, like we're learning, just makes the indoor farming far more smarter. And like we just heard at the end of the pitch there, that really being able to alert farmers to problems before it becomes a huge problem and they end up losing a bunch of crops. You've also talked in a little bit about some of the solution too. It can help in the side of nutrients and what's being utilized there, and even down to how much fish food the fish would get in a hydroponic type situation. But yeah, do you want to elaborate any more about some of the effects there and the savings that are transferred to the farmers?
Sure. I mean, essentially what a lot of farmers are doing now is they're using handheld probes. So that takes a lot of time. And a lot of times they're writing the data down in an Excel spreadsheet, which leaves a lot of room for error. So we're automating the monitoring so that you're aware when anything's going out of whack well before it creates a bunch of stress. So it's going to save a lot of potential waste because these are really, really sensitive systems, particularly aquaponic systems. where if your dissolved oxygen decreases within just a couple hours, you can lose your entire crop.
Yeah, pretty big problem there.
Yeah.
All right, Judy, do you want to jump in?
Of course. So this is actually a great interest of mine too. And so it's cool to see companies innovating in this area. When it comes to the sensors and then the software platform tool that the farmers would use, is your core technology or your major innovation in the software that pulls all the data together, or is it in some advancement in the sensors?
Yeah, so we have two advancements. One is, instead of individual sensors, we're compiling them in sensor arrays, and that data is fused, which means it's put together, and that way you can overlay it for data analytics. So that's the software innovation that we're enabling. And this analytics also includes predictive analytics. So there is some machine learning component involved here. We're also innovating in terms of cost reduction. So we're looking for opportunities where we can develop what we're calling soft sensors. We've already been able to enable using hard sensors, which are electronic hardware, and pulling on those data to do calculated data. So we're able to produce heat index and dew point readings that are all integrated into the system. And we're working from ORP, we're being able to enable something called EH, which is oxygen reduction potential. And that tells you a lot in terms of giving you signals if anything's happening with pathogens, so that before your DO crashes, you know what's happening. So we've got things going on both ends, software and hardware.
Great. And then just a follow-up question to that then. So how do you expect, or how are you currently thinking about the potential business model of how your customers might pay for these services?
Yeah, thanks for that question. So we've got two different things going on. We've got the hardware sales. So that's revenue wherein people will purchase sensor arrays for water quality monitoring and sensor array for ambient conditions. So temperature, humidity, and CO2, for example, and cleaning, because occasionally you do have to clean your sensors, that biofoul, and then the reagents for pH and DO sensors. And then on the other side, we'll have a subscription where farmers can access their data analytics and their data visualization at 3 different increasing tier points. So there's advanced levels of analytics. Say if you're a researcher or you're a farmer interested in doing research, you can have much more rigorous analytics.
Great.
So Jennifer, we just heard from David with Canopy, and it sounds like they have a closed system. So help me understand the market dynamics here. How many of these, as this market grows, how much of the market are you actually going to be able to serve? I mean, is Canopy kind of an outlier with these closed systems, or is that just something you're going to have to be able to navigate around?
Well, honestly, we're hoping to find ways to collaborate with Canopy and companies like Canopy that are automating the labor. We have a situation where aquaponics and hydroponics is growing very rapidly. In the United States and in the EU, what we're seeing is that the very large companies have been able to create these wonderful platforms, but they're proprietary. So the average mid-sized to small farmer can't just go out and buy these off the shelf. So we want to make this so that they can buy these systems off the shelf. And whereas Canopy is really focusing on the labor part, we think that there's opportunity to collaborate with the monitoring part. So a farm manager could remotely be looking at a dashboard and see what's going on in multiple farms, and then communicating with the farm managers that are on site about what are the patterns that they see occurring, and do so in a predictive manner, so that they will be seeing ahead of, okay, well, the climate is moving into winter. what do we anticipate that means in terms of how that's going to affect our water quality and our air conditions going forward? And how do we then have to adjust?
All right, thank you very much, Jennifer. Next, we're going to move on to Pure Blue Tech.
Hello, Clean Tech community. I'm Ryan Vogel, CEO and founder of Pure Blue Tech. Our mission is to reduce the cost, energy, and chemicals of treating and reusing water and other liquids. As you likely know, membrane filtration, including reverse osmosis, is essential across industries and applications around the world. If you've worn clothing, driven an automobile, talked on a cell phone, or eaten just about any food and beverage, membranes are essential to producing most of these products. The global market is 5 billion, but the cost to operate the membranes is more than 10 times that amount. The biggest unsolved issue is membrane fouling or clogging. This is where salts, organics, biologicals are going to stick to and block the pores of the membrane. This wastes a lot of energy, requires downtime, chemical cleanings, and the membranes have to be thrown away and replaced. Fouling costs a lot of money. We at Pure Blue Tech have developed and scaled 2 patented innovations, one using nanoscale patterns, and the second, ultrasound within the membrane element to greatly reduce membrane fouling by 71%. You can see standard membrane on the left, our membrane on the right stays clean. What this means in terms of the impact for, say, the seawater desalination industry, you can take 20 desalination plants over 1 year with our technology. They'd produce more than 300 billion gallons of pure water, save more than 350 gigawatt hours of power, and save more than 13 million tons of chemicals. We've secured 1.6 million in non-dilutive government contracts. We have significant commercial interest and traction, moving into pilots very shortly. I'm down in LA to meet with Anheuser-Busch InBev, Dairygold, PepsiCo, and others interested. We will also work with systems companies and eventually large membrane manufacturers is the end game. So in summary, we are transforming membrane fouling to save water and energy costs. Our team has done this before, more than 175 years of experience, and we have these full-scale allies in place and the traction to date to justify us moving forward into the field. Thank you so much.
All right, and CEO and founder Ryan Vogel is with us. Hi, Ryan. And
Hi,
this is
Trisha.
one of those technologies that a lot of people don't even think about being out there. So I'm glad that you're solving this problem in what probably will impact a lot of different markets. So I'm kind of curious, as far as this is kind of a product development and another side of the question of, is this a one-to-one exchange? Does this just seamlessly integrate into current systems? And then have you product development wise, has anybody tried this? How's it working?
Yeah, so we've been developing the core technologies, the nano-patterned membrane and the ultrasound within the membrane module for about 5 years and successfully scaled the technologies. And we're building the industrial scale prototypes. Then we'll send those first to food and beverage customers, and then to oil and gas and mining, and then municipal desalination and wastewater in that order. We're just before that pilot stage. I've been working very hard to get to that point. But now that the technology works, we're interfacing much more closely with customers, and we should be getting that pilot data in the next 6 months or so.
Fantastic.
So,
Jim, do you have a question for
I
Ryan?
love the slide you had on the impact. I think it's awesome. So thank you for putting that in there. Just help me understand the recurring revenue model here. I get it, selling filters, but is that really it? You're just gonna continue to sell filters, or is there any kind of a maintenance or recurring revenue model that you have?
Yeah, the membrane elements, and touching on Trisha's second question, yes, these are one-to-one replacements. And so in the dairy industry, they're replacing those membrane elements, Dairygold replacing them every 6 to 12 months. And so that is a recurring revenue contract. But they're purchasing the actual product again and again, oftentimes multi-year contracts with multiple replacements included in that contract. and they're buying them for roughly $1,000 per unit, and they might use between 1,000 and 1,500 per year. An organization like AB InBev, Anheuser-Busch InBev, largest beverage company in the world, more than 10 times that amount. And so yes, it is recurring revenue, but and we're reducing their maintenance costs and their operations costs. And so to make sure we can get into the field most quickly and make these sales, we are pricing competitively at par with DuPont, Toray Hydronautics, their membrane elements. And then once we've demonstrated significant savings with the customers, that they have less operating costs, energy, chemicals, labor, then we will boost up maybe a 20% premium and sell that way.
Yeah, thanks for touching on the pricing. That's a super important point to point out there. Judy.
Yes. So, growing up in Southern California, we talk about desalination as a potential solution to help address some water issues. So, but my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, but is that reverse osmosis, desalination, it's a lot of energy cost. And so with your self-cleaning RO membrane, can you walk us through how that self-cleaning mechanism also affects the energy consumption, and whether we're talking about a trade-off here with like longevity of membrane increasing, but also increasing energy as a result of that?
Yeah, so we're talking about a net savings of energy with our technology. What happens when a membrane operates, it's creating two streams. One is the permeate pure water stream, in the case of seawater desalting. The Carlsbad, California plant, and I'm actually staying very close to the plant here, meeting with customers, including some of these municipalities. They bring in 100 million gallons of seawater per day. Permeate pure water through the reverse osmosis membrane would be half of that, so 50 million gallons per day. And then 50 million gallons is twice as salty seawater, and that goes back to the ocean. No, it does not make the Pacific Ocean saltier. There is a significant amount of energy that's required to do that relative to the value of water. Most people would conclude that that's an appropriate cost. But we are reducing energy consumption because when the membrane operates, salts accumulate and other foulants stick to and clog the surface of that membrane, and pressure drops. So the pumps have to use more energy to maintain pressure. So if you reduce fouling by 71% like we do, then you can maintain pressure and save energy. Or with the same amount of energy, you can produce more water.
Thanks.
Right. Thank you so much, Ryan. And thanks for this work that you're doing. So let's hear
Thank
now
you.
from Mighty Pipeline, who is working on a solution for clean hydrogen transport.
Hi, I'm Nathan Prisco. I founded Mighty Pipeline because I have a passion for reimagining energy systems. At Mighty Pipeline, we believe that our generation's future will forever be judged based on how quickly and economically we deploy clean hydrogen energy at scale. The problem, hydrogen is challenging to transport. There are many high potential renewable and fossil clean energy production sites that are landlocked or stranded, but relatively close to existing pipelines as a cost-effective means of distribution. We're developing Mighty Solution, a patent-pending fuel emulsion technology to enable clean hydrogen energy transport through existing pipelines to deliver an affordable supply to market. The Hydrogen Council says $7 trillion of investment are needed to deploy clean hydrogen. Over 1/3 of this is transportation, distribution, and storage infrastructure. Collectively, these segments are called the midstream energy business, and this is where Mighty Pipeline delivers greatest impact. We're creating value for two key industrial segments, oil pipelines and clean energy producers. Our technology upgrade package grants existing oil pipelines the ability to transport clean hydrogen energy without disrupting oil flows. The technology boosts pipeline ROI and allows for low-cost, efficient recovery of clean energy at the terminus. We're an early-stage technology company that's completed proof of concept and is seeking larger scale pilot opportunities to advance our drive towards clean energy. Currently, we're in discussions with groups in Alaska and Canada to include pipeline companies, clean energy producers, and policymakers to pursue clean energy infrastructure funding opportunities. At Mighty Pipeline, we believe our solution is key to accelerating solutions to the climate crisis.
So Nathan Prisco, co-founder of Mighty Pipeline, is with us. Hello, Nathan. So you're really solving a lot here in that, I mean, there's already a lot in the hydrogen sort of transition energy space and just green hydrogen and trying to drive costs down there. But then getting into this transportation costs and utilizing existing pipelines that's already out there. What's been the reception of some of the oil pipelines? Have you talked to folks out there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we started in Alaska, and they've been tremendously receptive, but by nature very cautious. But really, what we're offering them is a familiar technology that resonates with them, and really developing the hardware and technology and technical support they need for this to be actionable to their organization, because they've really become more lean over the years, and it's an opportunity for startups.
I have Jim and Judy here, so if either of you have any questions.
Yeah, Nathan, I love what you're doing. I mean, hydrogen is a great potential clean fuel, but as the tiniest element in the world, it's really hard to deal with. So I love your solution. Thank you. So a couple questions as it relates to, for these operators, what are some of the objections you're hearing? Or do they want to know that this is not going to hurt the pumps, for example, in terms of how this is going to get, sometimes the liquids might get stored, at a waypoint? I mean, is there any issues there? So just what are some of the objections that you feel you're going to have to overcome for this to make this work? And secondly, what is required at the endpoint to get the hydrogen out of these flows?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and thank you, Jim. And really, so our technology is actually ammonia, which is, I would say, a subset of hydrogen. This is something that's really being adopted, and sort of the objections is I guess really the uncertainty, because it's very different from their sort of core procedure. So there's different safety considerations. There's definitely certain material compatibility issues. And I'd say the main one is regulatory, because we really have the system of regulations built for the status quo. And that's going to have to be altered if we want to use these assets for clean energy. So we've been really doing the work to identify those core concerns. We've been maintaining those lines of communication, and are really working towards an actionable proposal that will involve those oil companies in the process of commercializing and developing the solution. And that's something they're familiar with as a business organization, is working with contractors and technology providers, especially in Alaska and Canada, which have very lean operations.
Thank you for your presentation. My question is on adoption and that path to adoption. And so whenever we're talking about things that are like infrastructure, right? So let alone pipeline infrastructure, we're talking about these big assets, and how in your customer discovery, as you've been thinking about how to scale up your technology and this company, what have you learned in terms of what, the right like baby steps to, medium-sized steps to big steps are in order to scale up the business?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. So in our customer discovery, we found that this is going to be driven a lot on the customer side, and that the pipelines themselves feel like they're the FedEx of the energy business, and they don't have a whole bunch of substantial sway in this. So it also involves the producers themselves. And in terms of the opportunities, I think people are really beginning to understand, in terms of the hydrogen puzzle, that transportation is a really big part of that. So we believe that what we're offering, really avoids a lot of new infrastructure, and that the short-term opportunities, we're working with national lab partners. We've done proof of concept testing. So now we've done substantial design work towards hardware and system level components. And really it's going to be geographic, appealing to local state governments, local provincial governments, and involving industry and sort of a collaborative, because it can't just all be the oil companies, it can't all be government. It's really sort of enabling and really taking responsibility to drive a project that wouldn't have been possible before, but could now be possible with our technology, and recognizing our place in that whole ecosystem and working with those partners.
Well, thank you, Nathan, for this great work, especially as we start to see, some of the transitions from fossil fuels to all of these, cleaner energy sources. And I think, speak on behalf of all my colleagues, we're excited to see the traction that you maintain to get in the market here.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to hear from Blue Dot Motorworks, which Blue Dot is working on a retrofit kit, turning cars from gas to electric.
I'm Tom Gursky, founder of Blue Dot Motorworks. This is the Narwhal, the first of a family of bolt-on retrofit systems that together can convert almost any light vehicle into a plug-in hybrid.
Why would we want to do this? Well, the growing global fleet of conventional vehicles is so big relative to how many cars we produce every year
that even if we're manufacturing nothing but EVs by 2027,
we'll consume 230% of our carbon budget. To close that gap with even more new EVs would cost an additional $38 trillion. Which is about 12 times the relative spending of the Apollo Moon program, and the automotive industry would need to double in size. We'd have to scrap $15 trillion worth of perfectly good cars, 50% more wealth than the US lost in the 2008 financial crisis. We'd have to increase battery production 700% faster than current projections, and install 5 million additional chargers. And it takes about 5 years of driving to break even from the embodied carbon from producing each of those EVs and scrapping the cars they're replacing. Retrofitting existing cars as plug-in hybrids addresses all of these issues. Compared to the extra EV approach, we can achieve our carbon targets at 88% lower cost, using about half the extra batteries. By providing 30 miles of electric range while keeping the engine for occasional use, we eliminate the bottleneck of public charger deployment. We are carbon negative almost immediately, and we preserve the wealth embodied in vehicle ownership. Our systems pay for themselves so quickly that financing one results in immediate savings, which can exceed $20,000 over the life of the product. We make electric driving accessible to many who would otherwise be left behind, a crucial aspect of climate justice.
we've spent the past 6 years developing the first and only retrofit approach that can be deployed at a scale equal to this challenge.
Our architectures leverage common interfaces and are adaptable to the huge variety of vehicles out in the world. This means they can be mass-produced at the lowest possible price and installed by third parties.
Our chance to limit global warming to 1.5 C is slipping away. We need all solutions on deck, and scalable retrofitting of the cars we already own needs to play a vital role if we're going to have any hope. Thank you.
Right, and I have Tom Gursky, CEO and founder, joining us. Welcome, Tom. I love this. I think shout out to the audience here. Poll, where are my other non-new pro older car people? Like, probably love this solution. I have not yet transitioned to EV, mainly because I don't want to buy a brand new car. So this is awesome. So maybe my question to kind of start this off is what cars is this ideal for? Or maybe the question is, what kind of cars maybe wouldn't this work for?
Yeah, so the whole reason for existing of our systems is to be universal. So between the two systems, we have the Narwhal, which you saw in the video, and we also have what we call a humpback, which is for lighter duty vehicles that have independent suspension. Between those two, we can accommodate almost any light duty vehicle in the market. There will be a few rare exceptions, but by and large, those two systems kind of each available in sort of a small, medium, and large size would be able to cover almost the entire market.
Jim, do you have a question for Tom?
Sure. So thank you, Tom. I mean, I get it that plug-in hybrids are a solution for probably 80% of the driving. So I mean, this is great. So as I saw the picture of your product, yeah, not to call your baby ugly, but that's not the most attractive thing on the back of a car. So what? I mean, is this a prototype? I mean, do you think that people will want to put that on their, their BMW or Chevrolet or whatever? I mean, it's challenges of this first product versus where you think this ultimately needs to go.
Yeah, it is definitely a prototype, and it's the design that you see is just the output of our first design study. So that design language is very much going to evolve over time, and we also have the option of providing the system with multiple skin options for the exterior, so you could have a different appearance if you're putting it on the back of a pickup truck. It could be kind of blocking and industrial. If you're putting it on the back of a sedan, it could be sleeker and more futuristic looking. So we have that option in our product architecture.
Great.
Hey Tom, nice to see you again. So my question is around adoption of this and how, for a product that can be so applicable to so many cars, like how do you envision this kind of product being sold and reaching the customer? Where will they learn about it? How will they then make the decision? Who do they pay to get it installed?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So we're starting with the fleet market, which is about $160 billion addressable market for us in the United States. That gives us the one-to-many type sales relationship that's very advantageous. Our specific beachhead within that market is municipalities and school districts, and particularly ones that have ESG targets that they frankly don't have the budget to meet really any other way. So we are primarily focusing on this point a direct sales model where we'll sell the system directly to the end user, but then we will refer them to an installation partner to have the installation done, and that can be done in a matter of hours. And we can train third parties, independent shops, as well as national shop franchises to perform those installations very easily because it happens the same way every single time.
Great.
Yeah,
Tom, can you
time
explain
for
the
one other
pricing?
question. Oh, sorry. Jim, you mind asking that again?
Tom, can you please explain the pricing on the product?
Yeah, so like I said, it will be available in sort of a small, medium, large type configuration. On the small side, we'd be somewhere in the order of $6,000 to $7,000 for something like an SUV. I'm sorry, small crossover SUV or a sedan. And then it would kind of scale linearly from there as you go up to your heavier duty vehicles. So we can go all the way up to heavy duty pickup trucks, at which point you might be getting into them starting at around $8,000.
And what's the anticipated range on those three types of products?
We're targeting in the 30 to 35 mile range, which is kind of the sweet spot where you're really covering the overwhelming majority of driving most people do. And then to go beyond that, you start getting diminishing returns in terms of how much driving you're actually covering. And then the kind of implications for the system start becoming more and more painful in terms of additional costs and weight and whatnot.
Okay.
All right, thank you so much, Tom, and for all the work that you and your team are doing in all the space, and to all of the teams. This brings us to the end of the 8 teams that we wanted to present to you today. So if you're wanting to learn more about them, you maybe already found it. You go down to the bottom of the screen of this event platform, you should be able to see those videos again, their contact information, webpage, and so forth, and you're welcome to connect with them. You can always reach out to us at Virtue Lab as well. I'll invite Rochelle back up to join me in saying our goodbyes. I think maybe speaking on her behalf and Vanessa's as well, this cohort will start back up again next year with a whole new crew. So if you're watching and you are a climate or clean tech company in this space, energy, anything that's going to be able to be better for the planet than what's out there, please get in touch with Rochelle or Vanessa so that we can make sure and alert you when we're soliciting for next year's cohort again. Thank you to all the sponsors of our Fuel event series and everybody for joining us. Again, if you want to catch up on some of the other cool events that we had, visit our website. And with that, thank you everybody for doing your part to try to bring down all the impacts that have negatively been affecting the planet and the people. We appreciate it. Takes all folks with the solutions, folks who are supporting those people, the financial, the funds, all of it. It takes everybody on deck to be able to accomplish what we need to accomplish in a very short amount of time here.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Appreciate it.
Well, thank you, everybody. Have a great week.